Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AOR Hyper Energy Season 4 Formula 2 Sprint League here on the PC. We're here at the Marina circuit for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the 12th and final round of the season. And the drivers have already readied up and gone down to the track. So let's just jump straight down and on board with Mo currently up in second place, coming through the third the third turn there, and into the chicane of turn 6 and 5 and 6, and then the hairpin of turn 7 before coming out on to the long straight. That is the back straight there, with the first DRS of the two on the track. Then down the hill towards turn number 8, where it's a hard braking zone, and then left and right into 9, a place where we might be seeing a couple of overtakes, or maybe at least people slicing up, move down the next straight, where you have a small kink to the left hand of number 10 there, where they opened the DRS through there, and then just going flat out down into the chicane complex of 11, 12 and 13, a place where we might as well be seeing some overtaking. Then going right there after turn number 11, then 13 the left-hander, then 14 the next left-hander, then into the triple right-hander of 15, 16 and 17. Mo goes there, 1, 2, and then hard braking for the third one. Then we come in to the final couple of corners, turn number 18 and then 19, two almost 90-degree corners. Then there's a small kink there on the small straight, before coming into double left-hander of 20, and then passing the pit entry and 21 through there, and then it's a short run up to the start-finish line, where Tudor sets the fastest lap with a 1:47.6, and Mo comes across the line in 4th with a 1:49.3.
A good lap from Tudor to comfortably gap the rest of the field there here in this one-shot qualifying by over a second. Definitely the heir apparent with Flash not being here. Tudor will be hoping, expecting to win this feature race here today, and I'm certainly expecting him to do so as well, especially with a pole time quite that dominant. It definitely augurs well for the Romanian in the Prema. Sebster in second, and then Carlo, a newcomer, in third in the Carlin, appropriately enough, narrowly outscoring or out-timing his countryman in the form of Mo there for 4th, Steph Farrell 5th, Lasher 6th, Biolite 7th, Darius 8th, Darius 9th, 17 seconds away though, and then Dominic Neal Bywater both got disqualified for track extensions, and Starcraft was unable to set a time. Another newcomer also in the Carlin.
Yes, indeed. Now, and the drivers will be readying up for the first of the two races. This is the 16-lap feature race, and it's going to be interesting to see what tyres they run on. Of course, they do have to make a pit stop. Some drivers do go for the reverse strategy. Others tend to just go down the middle with the normal soft to harder compound. Of course, then come the sprint race, most of the drivers will be going on that harder compound to go the entire distance on one tyre set as you're allowed. But last time out, we did see some controversy with the tyre choice and how they managed to do their pit stops with a safety car involved. But after 3 laps, they can come into the pits, and that will count as their pit stop. And if there is a safety car, they can pit. That will also count, but a virtual safety car will not.
Indeed, as we learned the clarification between those 2 rules last time, the state between the virtual safety car and the safety car, and just waiting them for the rest of the drivers here to ready up. 5 seconds remaining for them now, even if they don't, so they're just nailing on the final bits of their setups here. Can't change too much at this stage, of course, and deciding exactly which tyres they want to be starting on. So let's take a look at who is starting on what, and the majority actually going for the soft tyre, which, bear with me, is the harder of the 2 compounds here. The super softs being the softer than the softs, and as such, Steffarel, Biolite, Dominic and Neil Bywater are all going for those purple-walled super soft tyres, whereas the rest of the field would rather start on the harder option in the form of the red-walled soft tyres.
Yes, indeed. You can just see down the list here the tyres they've chosen. Interesting to see in that battle, of course, for 8th place as well for the pole position for the sprint race, where we see a couple of drivers here on the soft tyre, the harder of the 2 compounds, and then behind they'll have Dominic and Neil Bywater, the 2 Darius there in 8th and 9th, and then Dominic and Neil Bywater right behind on a set of super soft tyre. So they'll be coming swiftly for that 8th place, trying to get past, maybe cling on to that for the end of the Grand Prix. Of course, all of the drivers hoping they can do better, but when you're down in that area, what you are hoping for is that 8th place in the pole position for the sprint race. But most drivers, or the drivers, quite split with the tyre strategy. No real strategy getting chosen over the others, maybe leaning a bit more to the soft tyre than the super soft, but again, it is quite split between the different drivers.
Indeed, as it tends to be actually in the F2 Sprint League, you tend to get more of a trend towards starting on the softer option than the harder option, but here that has not been the direction of it, only 4 of them going for that softer option, as you mentioned. And Carlo, interestingly enough, disqualified from the formation lap without anyone else having been disqualified, so evidently Carlo got into an adventure of their own, and as a result will not be able to warm up their tyres, which is actually quite critical in these Formula 2 cars. To have decently warm rear tyres for the actual start of the race is very important, because starting these cars is really, really difficult, notoriously difficult, compared to the F1 cars, which, get a little bit of wheel spin, but, generally they're pretty smooth off the line. These are really, really difficult. You'll know that if you've ever tried to start against the AI in these cars, because the AI are very, very good at it. So Carlo might be at quite a significant disadvantage going into the very start of this race, but we'll find out about that in a moment's time, as Carlo's teammate Starcraft is lining up now on the back of the grid in 12th for this 12-car grid here in Abu Dhabi before we're about to get underway. So here come the lights then. It is Tudor on the left and Sebster on the right. The lights go up, we wait for them to go out for the drivers, and we are now underway, and it looks like a decent enough start for Tudor. Sebster struggled, Carlo getting swallowed up as I predicted, and there comes Mo up the inside into turn 1, ahead of Sebster already, but the pink BWT liveried car is still going to be battling around the outside, but cannot hold it, so Mo up into second nicely. Carlo has stemmed the bleeding a little bit, down in 6th, has 2 cars battling behind, that is the 2 Dariuses, who are going side by side here into turn 5. And it looks like it is the elder Darius that's just about going to get the advantage. Darius JRX, who maybe sticks a nose up the inside of Carlo as well. Carlo had to be careful not to take the apex there, but was able to avoid the investigative front wing from the ART of Darius.
Yeah, Carlo really not getting a good start. The same can be said about Biolite. Both drivers dropping down 3 positions off the start, and very much showing how important it is to warm up those tyres. There, Carlo getting all sorts out of shape in the braking zone there. And behind it, we have Dominic and Biolite just in a bit of a battle there. Some yellow flags being thrown. That is for Starcraft behind. But we're seeing Darius now and Neil Bywater. Yeah, that is in 10th and 11th there. Darius diving down the inside of Neil Bywater. They're going side by side as they come in to that complex round 11 and 12. But it looks like Neil Bywater won out in that battle. Darius down into 11th place.
Yeah, Darius was having an okay first lap, was up one position from where he started, but locked the rears very heavily into turn 8 at the end of the main straight there. Neil Bywater made a mistake into 17 though, and that lets Darius back through and up into 10th once more. BioLite also makes another mistake, and Darius might think about a move into turn 20. It would have been optimistic and go for it in the end. But yeah, he locked the rears. Oh, here he goes into turn 21 though, actually. I'll talk about locking the rears in a moment here as the MP Motorsport gets passed there by the Trident of Darius, who is back up into 9th. But yeah, locking the rears, something that's very easy to do in these Formula 2 cars in the heavy braking zones. You don't get many braking zones heavier than the end of that back straight. Looks like StarCraft is having a few more issues at the very back, and Carlo, meanwhile, has managed to get back past Lasher after really struggling off the line.
Yeah, Carlo doing a great job here in some damage recovery. Actually, saying that, sorry, bit of commentator's curse there. He's gotten back up into 5th, makes a small mistake here, doesn't seem to lose out in the first place, but now down the straight here, you see Lasher, he got the better exit, but it doesn't look like he can challenge.
The order, that's Sebster going through on Mo into turn 8, but Mo gets the switchback done nicely. Sebster was just too deep into the braking zone there, really went for it. Couldn't get the car slowed down in time, and he'll be frustrated to see Mo driving clear of him once again there in second. They can see Tudor just absolutely driving away at the front right now. 2.7 seconds between the Prema and Mo in second place, and Sebster will be thinking, if only I could get past Mo, I could start challenging for the race lead here. Carlo looks to have made a mistake through 11, side by side, cutting across 12 entirely. That's going to let Dominic through and Darius JRX. What has happened here? Carlo is going that's Steph Farrell, going very slowly right here in the Charoux. Really not sure what happened there, but Steph has fallen all the way down to 10.
I believe he had a small spin that he managed to just save before he got completely round, but halfway round he did get in turn 11 and 12, but managed now to get his car back straight and back running, although he has fallen quite far down. Just in front you're seeing Neil Bywater battle a bit there with the drivers around him. Darius there, and Darius, the old Darius going down the inside now into turn number 1, was at least looking to do that, but was unable to find the room there. Just didn't have enough speed and has to stick behind. As now, Carlo, the first driver to get a time penalty at the front, does get one.
Indeed, at first of many, I will assume. Going into this race, I'd expect to see a few more time penalties by the time we get to the end of it. Dominic's having a good charge up the field on those super soft tyres, making the sort of progress he would have wanted from 11th on the grid. StarCraft retires from the session there, just as they're getting lapped by the rest of the field, so StarCraft will not be making it to the checkered flag in this one. Further up the order, though, there's Sebster on Mo into turn 8, and once again, it looks like Mo on the other side, this time still just about getting the advantage over the German in the HWA car. So Sebster really struggling to make the move stick on Mo. He's clearly faster right now, but he cannot get past in any sort of meaningful way. And the American holds on to second for another lap here. Carlo closing in on them as they continue to battle as well, but does have that 3-second time penalty to his name. Further down the order, that's Neil Bywater and Darius going side by side into 11. Darius holding off the English driver behind, though. Neil's actually making some good progress there on those super soft tyres. Not really sure what happened to Darius JRX last lap, but he dropped a long way behind where he was. I mean, there were several cars between himself and the other Darius at the end of lap 1, and now he is actually behind his fellow Darius. So, yeah, something's gone very wrong for him at some point. But out at the front, it is still Tudor, for whom absolutely nothing is going wrong right now, as he sets a purple lap in the form of a 1:52.1. Mo coming across the line, still second. Sebster still third and still frustrated.
Yeah, Sebster very much needs to get past. There, Steph Farrell pitching in and getting a 5-second time penalty there. Not the best for him. But again, looking at the front, Mo, if he can just hold on Sebster just for a bit and only let him pass just for a short bit, if then Mo can be behind once the detection point just after turn number 9 is, then he's very much set to just get back past. So Sebster, he needs to get in front and then have to stay a bit behind, or get way more in front than he is now as he goes around the outside into that turn number 8 and then turn 9 there, where he's done it multiple times. But again, they're just passing the detection point. They do their moan. Will now have the DRS on the second straight, and that means that with the DRS and the slipstream, he can just zoom past on the right hand side. But it looks like this time it is a bit more close than it was on previous laps. They are going side by side into that complex, but it looks like Mo has gotten it back once again. So Sebster, he maybe needs to hold back into that first chicane, and then get the DRS for the second straight before overtaking.
Further down the order, Neil Bywater has spun out in a battle with Darius. I didn't quite catch to see if there was any contact, but Neil Bywater lost the car at turn 11 and almost into the back of BioLite there as well, fully locked up into turn 17. But down back into 10th he goes after making some nice progress in the opening few laps of this race. Tudor still leading, 6.6 seconds now is the gap down to Mo, and Sebster still just sitting there lap after lap, trying to get past, desperately trying to get past Mo. Hasn't been able to do so, and that's definitely going to be a source of great frustration for him at this stage. The two Dariuses close together on track once again, unfortunately for us, but Darius JRX does have time penalties to his name in the form of a 3-second penalty. Him, Neil Bywater, and Carlo are the ones with 3-second time penalties, and Steph, who came into the pits and sped into the pit lane, has a 5-second time penalty.
Now, once again, just looking at the front here, we're seeing Sebster. He did outbrake himself a bit coming into the hairpin, so he doesn't get the same exit he's gotten on previous laps. But this might be an advantage for him, since now he will be behind and he will get the DRS for the second straight. So let's see, he's quite close to Mo in front there, but it's 5/10. So let's see if he can do anything with that and the DRS here down the second straight, something he hasn't had for the last couple of laps, something that Mo has gotten. But now into 11 and 12, he isn't close enough to go for the move. He now has to stick behind for other reasons. Simply that mistake out of the hairpin just was enough to keep him behind Mo for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess he wants to be behind into turn 8, you're right about that, but he wants to be a bit closer than he was this time around. Mo actually got a really nice run out of turn 9 as well through turn 10, which is really tough to do. It's a really tricky traction zone. However, Mo has made a bit of a pig's ear of this final sector thus far, so Sebster in with a bit more of a sniff, maybe of a move into turn 1 than you would usually see. Will we see Sebster being able to pull up alongside Mo, who makes another mistake in the final corner, turn 21 as well, running a bit wide, not meeting the apex there. The straight's not long enough for Sebster. No DRS either. So Mo remains ahead for now, and still, it just feels like there's nothing the man in the pink car can do for the time being. Dominic is the second car to pit to get rid of those purple walled super soft tyres. BioLite follows him into the pits as well. So it will just be Neil Bywater, the last remaining driver on that set of tyres, as Dominic will come out down in 9th.
Down in 9th, he does come out, yes, right at the back, along with BioLite, and then they have Steph Farrell. Steph Farrell will actually just pass BioLite there at least, and will be quite close to Dominic up ahead, but they're all running in a bit of no man's land. Clean air behind us. Oh, Sebster up ahead and Mo. There was some battling there.
Yeah, there was absolute desperation for Sebster, but Mo did exactly what he wanted him to do and just panicked when he saw Sebster coming absolutely flying at him in the braking zone there. He compromised himself through 8 and then through 9 as well, which gave him a bad run onto this straight, and finally Sebster has been able to make the move, though he does get the braking wrong for turn 11, but holds onto the car just about even after the rear end locks up on him. And Sebster holds on to second for the first time on the exit of turn 11. And maybe now he can look to drive away from Mo, but I think that any chance at winning this race is all but gone unless Tudor makes some kind of horrible error, and he can't even do it. As soon as he gets second place, he locks up the rear once again into turn 17, and back down into third he goes. This is just a nightmare for Sebster right now.
I certainly hope he isn't struggling on these soft tyres already, because they need to go quite a few laps more before he can pit on to the super softs, and Mo there makes a big mistake out of the final turn, letting Sebster pass easily there, as he just got a bit of oversteer, got a bit too eager on the throttle, and then simply Sebster just went round the outside as Mo was straightening his car up. And this means now that Carlo is making his way up to this battle. Although he does have time penalties, if he can get past and these two drivers still battle it out, then that 3-second gap might not be the hardest thing for Carlo, but he still has to catch up to them, and that's not anything he's able to do just yet, since he hasn't gotten the DRS. Something that Mo has, but he is a bit too far behind to capitalise off of it.
Yeah, Sebster looks like he might finally be able to solidify his grip on P2. Both of these guys, neither of them really want second place. They're just trying to give it to one another lap after lap. But it looks like Sebster has emerged victorious in that battle in the end there. And Carlo, I don't think quite has the raw pace of Mo, and probably certainly not the raw pace of Sebster. But every time they battle, he just gets that little bit closer before the gap starts to extend once they stop battling again. So Carlo, if he can just find a couple more tenths per lap, he can really start to close in on Mo, who will be under pressure from his countrymen. But we'll have to wait and see whether he's going to be able to do that or not. Darius GRX with another time penalty. I believe that's his second of the race. Sebster into turn 17 there, doesn't get it quite so wrong as he did on the last lap. And that is a sigh of relief, I'm sure, in the cockpit of that HWA there for Sebster. And Mo still just sticking within DRS range. He's actually not been dropped on the second half of this lap as much as I would have feared for the man in the Trident. So he might well be in with a shout of still contesting Sebster to the end of the race here.
Yeah, just looking a bit further down the grid, we're seeing Neil Bywater. He has come in to the pits for his one and only pit stop. He strapped on a set of soft tyres just on the last lap. And again, down in a bit of no man's land, along with a couple of other drivers waiting for the soft runners to come in for their pit stop for the super soft tyres. But it looks like it will be just a couple more laps before that happens. And the next couple of laps we might be seeing some battling between Mo and Sebster. Although Mo has fallen a bit behind Sebster, he is outside of the DRS range, or at least was, as they passed the detection point. Now he is within the second again, so we'll get it on the back and straight, but he is way too far behind to make anything of it, unless Sebster make a big mistake, which he didn't do. There was a small one, but it wasn't anything major, and Mo just picked up the DRS there, almost was outside of the second, but managed to keep in with a hairline.
Yeah, it was Mo that actually made the mistake of the two of them there into turn 8, the heavy braking zone. He just braked a little bit too late, just trying to get, incremental gains, get slightly closer, brake slightly later than usual to try and catch back up to Sebster. But he braked a little bit too late, and as a result, he was wide through 8, which makes you have just a terrible angle through turn 9, which gives you a poor run onto that whole sort of second straight in that sort of compact, second DRS straight. And as a result, Mo fell outside of DRS range briefly. The DRS got him back in for a moment, but he's now fallen even further away. 1.5 seconds between himself and Sebster as he's had a messy final sector. Sebster, he's not letting Tudor get away at quite such a rate of knots as he was when it was Mo chasing our race leader, but he still can't quite keep the pace of the Romanian out front. So I think Tudor is still looking very, very comfortable right now, absolutely sitting pretty to take this win in the feature race. And with Mo falling away from Sebster, we now have 0 drivers within DRS range of one another. Darius getting closer to the rear end of Lasher, who we haven't really talked about at all thus far this race. He's had a solid one, currently up in 5th in the dams. I think he'd be pretty happy with that if he came across the line in that position. But Darius is getting closer to his rear end now in the second of the 2 Tridents, although if he almost spins it through the hairpin there, he might not be getting quite so close anymore.
And Lashley's had a very quiet but a quite decent race. Jumped 1 position up from where he started. He's up into 5th place. Just a solid midfield positions as up ahead. Mo might have made a mistake into turn number 8 as Carlo's gotten past him up into 3rd place. I am sure that Mo won't be happy with that and that he'll be chasing hard after Carlo now. Of course, Carlo with a 3-second time penalty. So as it stands now, Mo would overtake him, but I'm sure that Mo would rather want to get past him on track again after what seems to have been a mistake into turn number 8 of some sort. Not quite sure what happened, but a mistake nonetheless. And talking about mistakes, Steph Rowe looks to have had a small spin in the same area of the track. So that 8-9 complex with that chicane looking very costly for the drivers.
Yeah, it's really tough to lay the power down on the exit of turn 9 at the best of times.
Mo.
And if you compromise yourself through 8, oh yeah, Mo.
Again.
Through turn 19 this time around, really struggling with those tyres at this point as Darius goes past as well. And I think this is going to be straight into the pits, so I wouldn't be surprised. And he does indeed head into the pits with Carlo ahead of him in the pit lane right now. And Mo, 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He didn't need that on top of everything else. He was looking so good for second. He was holding off Sebster so well. But now it's all gone to pots for the Trident driver. And there goes that front wing change. He's going to lose him even more time. So really, really rough for Mo in this race. Hopefully he can bounce back in the sprint race, but if he risks at the moment not getting on the reverse grid at all, so he might well be starting from outside the top 8, which will make it even harder for him to have that bounce back result that he'll be sorely needing.
Oh no, he's strapped on another set of soft tyres. Oh, he'll have to come into the pits once again. Oh,
yeah.
Mo.
That is sad. Yeah, Mo will not be happy with that one. He'll be absolutely kicking himself. At least Carlo managed to get on the right set of tyres, despite being the newcomer to the league. So congratulations on that one, Carlo, who should now be on a bit of a sprint up through the field, actually. Dominic ahead on relatively fresh soft tyres. And that's 4.3 seconds of gap. So Carlo has plenty of clean air to sort of pump in the laps here to try and get closer to Dominic and to try and undercut those that were around him on circuit. Most of all, that would be Sebster, of course, with Carlo running a pretty lonely race in 4th until coming into the pits. But Sebster will probably want to respond sooner rather than later, because the tyre differential, the tyre drop-off can be very, very major in these F2 cars. Carlo has 8 seconds of time penalties, though, and Sebster only just got his first 3-second time penalty there. Hasn't come into the pits yet, so that is leaving just the slightest opportunity for Carlo to have a go at him. But looking at the amount of time that Carlo is gaining on Dominic, it is not very much. So I don't think that Carlin is really getting the most out of those super soft tyres quite yet.
No, Carlo coming into the pits for his tyre change. He did speed in the pit lane and pick up a 5-second penalty. So quite unfortunate for him. And that pit lane entry, something we've seen a couple of the drivers struggle with. He is not the only one to get a 5-second time penalty. We've seen himself and Steph and Mo as well. All 3 of them getting 5-second time penalties for speeding in the pit lane. So certainly not an easy one, but you would imagine that the drivers would be better at slowing down for that limit.
Indeed, yeah, no, it's something that, you know, they really ought to have had nailed at this point. It's something that we see quite a lot, to be honest, and it's such an avoidable thing, which can make such a big difference to your race as well. I mean, I get the idea. You want to get the maximum time you can getting into the pit lane. You don't want to waste any time there, and sometimes if you brake too early, it can be a second and a half that you lose, but that's nothing compared to the 5-second penalty you're going to be picking up otherwise, especially when you can't serve it in the pit lane either. So, yeah, it's maybe something the drivers could do a little bit of a better job of avoiding next season, perhaps. But Basher and Carlo now, both out there on those fresh super soft tyres, so expect to see them putting in some very, very good lap times indeed. Whether they will be purple, I'm not so sure about that. Here comes Tudor into the pits as well from the race lead, so he'll be setting purple laps in a couple laps' time. You can bet your dollar on that one. Sebster into the pit lane as well. And then Darius 15 seconds up the road, so we're going to have to wait and see whether he's going to come into the pits or not. But he is now comfortably gapped the other Darius, who is now 7.8 seconds behind.
Darius decide not to come into the pits. He stays out. No, actually, he does come into the pits. And so does the other Darius into the pits as well. So Tudor coming out of the pits now, still in the lead. Onto the track he goes as Carlos sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, as it will be a bit close between himself and Sebster there. Sebster just coming up from the tunnel there as he's gone under the track. You can see him just passing there in the distance. So Carlo up into 4th place. He has Sebster right in front, and then they have Dominic just behind Tudor there. So Dominic in 2nd place there with his teammate in the other Prema, 13 seconds up the road.
Mo is still out there on those soft tyres. He needs to get off of those as quickly as possible, unless there's a glitch and he's actually on super softs, because not only is he going to be disqualified from this race because he only used 1 compounded tyre, but he's going to ruin both sets of his soft tyres for the sprint race, where you want to be on that set of tyres for the whole race. And I don't think a set of super softs, no matter how fresh, will be able to last the whole sprint race. So he might have to make a pit stop in the sprint race from super softs to super softs because he's used both sets of soft tyres. So yeah, Mo needs to be careful. I would not be putting any more heat cycles than I need to through that set of soft tyres, because he needs those to last the whole of the sprint race. Further down the order, or further up the order I should say, there's some actual battling going on, as here comes Darius up the inside of Steph Farrell into turn 11. Steph didn't have much of a reply for that one. Darius on the much faster tyres, and as a result cleanly moves up into 8th, or 6th I should say, in the Trident. Lasher up ahead. He's actually managed to get a lot closer to him in the pit stop phase, so Darius smelling blood a little bit here, looking to close down Lasher. Further down, the other Darius has been able to get past Neil Bywater for 8th and reverse grid pole.
Yes, of course, that battle there for reverse grid pole is looking like it will be a bit interesting, seeing as there are quite a few time penalties down there of differing lengths. So that might be a thing we need to keep our eye on in terms of gaps. Currently, Neil Bywater would be getting it, I believe. Since he only has 3 seconds and Darius has 9. So if you can just keep within 6 seconds, then you should be able to jump up into that 8th place ahead and start from pole position come the sprint race.
Dominic is currently in 2nd after starting 11th, but he's not going to be 2nd for very much longer, as here comes Sebster, his countryman, comfortably breezing past on the straight. There's still just a sniff of an opportunity here for Dominic to fight back in the braking zone. He will have DRS on the exit of turn 9, but his traction is going to be so much worse on those used soft tyres compared to the fresh super softs in Sebster's car. And as a result, the HWA should be able to just build the gap from here on out, and indeed he remains ahead into the braking zone at turn 11, which is the last opportunity for Dominic to really think about fighting back. Further down, Darius has been able to get past Lasher, but they're still going to be battling once again into turn 11. Here comes the Dams around the outside of turn 11. They bang wheels on the entry there. And it looks like Darius has almost shut the door on Lasher, who cuts the corner in panic, really, and then loses it on the exit at 13 and spins round on the grass. That's the end of Lasher's race in terms of being up there in the high points order. You mentioned he had a quiet race, but he'd been effective. At the moment his race was no longer quiet, he span out, so maybe it needs to have a quiet race for him in the future. But comfortably leading at the front, still Tudor, 16.3 seconds between himself and Sebster now. It's just incredible. That man is having a great drive here.
Certainly really Tudor, showing why he is where he is in the championship. Lasher, oh, just on the exit of that turn 19 there, he just completely lost the traction, spun up the rear wheels, and then lost the entirety of his front wing on the left hand side. So Lasher, he needs a quiet one for everything to go right for him, and simply there getting a bit too eager and spinning out completely, losing quite a bit of his front wing.
Indeed. So Dominic's still holding on to 3rd though. He's done a good job on he's actually done the default strategy, really, starting on the softer tyres and going on to the harder set. Still in 3rd at the moment with 0 time penalties to his name as well. It's only those 2 Premas who are without time penalties at this stage of the race. So both of them doing a good job to keep it between the white lines. and Dominic should be on track here for a third-place finish in the race. Carlo's on faster tyres and is approaching the rear end of the German in the Prema, but he's still 3.6 seconds away, 3.7 now. The gap actually extends a little bit there, and of course Carlo does have penalties that Dominic does not, 8 seconds worth indeed. So Dominic, unless he makes a big error of his own, they should be at least third and maybe even second if he can stick within the range of Sebster. It's 1.3 seconds between the two of them now, and you'd expect Sebster to be able to drive away on those one-lap-old super soft tyres, maybe a couple of laps old by now. But Dominic's actually holding him at about 1.2 seconds, which is good news.
Yeah, they're coming on to the second to last lap, so 2 laps to go for these two drivers, of course a bit less for Tudor up ahead. So I wouldn't be surprised, seeing as the pace that Dominic has had in the last couple of laps, if he can just keep hold of Sebster and just stay within those very important 3 seconds, without breaking himself a bit there, but still keeping it nicely within 2 seconds, but there now jumps up a bit. So you'll have to watch out, but could do it if he's careful and just gets his head down and really just puts in the best laps he can do, or the best 1.5 laps that he can do here towards the end. Further behind, Mo's got into 9th place. He went into the pits just last lap, I believe, and has come out on a set of super soft tyres. Unfortunately, there is 34.5 seconds up to the reverse grid pole position, so I don't see that happening for Mo in this race. But Bywater ahead with that reverse grid pole position is fighting Darius JRX into the chicane of 8 and 9 there, side by side they go. Neil Bywater's on the outside, that turns to the inside. There's a bit of banging there with the tyres, and it looks like Neil Bywater's just losing out a bit there, has to go back into 8th place, but has the DRS on the second straight into turn 11. Will he be able to do it? Just takes the racing line, same does Darius, and Neil Bywater sticks behind for now.
Gap between Dominic and Sebster is still expanding. It's 2.8, 2.7 seconds thereabouts at the moment. Dominic needs to drive the lap of his life on the final lap here to stick within range of Sebster. Something I didn't mention before, Sebster's 4th in the championship with 155 points. Dominic is 5th, 10 points behind him. So if he can finish ahead of him by sticking within that 3-second margin and claim second place in this race, that'll be big for their little battle in the championship over what might well become 3rd position. But no, as I talk about it, Dominic runs wide through turn 4, picks up the time penalty, and then falls out of 3 seconds to add insult to injury. So Dominic will not be looking at anything better than 3rd place at the end of this race. And that means that Sebster will be extending the gap to him rather than it closing into the sprint race. And with that, I think Sebster should be nailed on for 3rd in the championship, because he will leapfrog Richie B as well, who's currently in that 3rd spot. Tudor gets a 3-second time penalty as well, so that makes it every single driver in the field with time penalties to some extent, only coming to both the Prema drivers on the very final lap of the race. But no one's perfect, and their luck or their judgment run out at the very end.
Yeah, certainly now. A fight down in 8th place between 3 drivers. Steph Brown made a mistake on the last lap, spun out. That means that Darius and Neil Bywater closed up, and they almost went 3 wide into the chicane there. Neil Bywater decided to dive it down the inside anyways. Darius got past into the braking zone, and then Neil Bywater saw a space on the inside and just went for it. And there, Steph Farrell now falling down into 9th or 8th place. And Neil Bywater up into 7th, and Darius in 6th. The other Darius up ahead picked up another time penalty for him. So that means that the field will be shuffled round a bit in some places. Tudor crossing the line to take the win. Sebster in 2nd place. Dominic takes 3rd. Then Carlo will cross the line in 4th. Darius will take 5th. And then there'll be the other Darius right behind, or 16, almost 17 seconds down the road, will be crossing in 6th, but will lose that to Neil Bywater right behind him. that 6th and 7th place will swap round. What about 8th place? Will Stefrel take it? Stefrel jumps up into 7th. Darius then takes 8th position and the reverse grid pole position. Then we'll have Mo, 29 seconds down the road, takes 9th place, and right behind you have BioLite and Lasher outside of the top 10, looking to not score any points in the final feature race of the season.
Indeed. And actually, here comes Lasher getting past BioLite there through turn 19 as BioLite made an error. Lasher makes another error through 20 and actually picks up, I think, what is his 4th 3-second time penalty of the race. So BioLite will regain this position when they come across the line and claim that final point in this race. I've got to say, Neil Bywater managing a 6th place finish after penalties have been factored in. That's got to be one of his best results of the season, so I think he's going to be pretty happy with that. Driver of the day given to Dominic. He came up through the order, but I'm going to have to give it to Tudor because that was a dominating performance from the other Prema there. And we'll see whether he can match it in the sprint race when he has the traffic to contend with. He can't just start from the front and drive away in that sprint race, but he'll be wanting to make it 2 race wins in a row on this final weekend of the season here. And that is also Tudor's first feature race win of the season, would you believe it? So that's been a long time coming for him, and he'll be very glad to have finally checked that one off.
Well, certainly Tudor doing all he can this weekend to scrape home as many points as he can, and if he'd managed to keep it alive last weekend, he would actually have been on track to take the championship, but ultimately he wasn't able to carry it out last weekend, and he can do as well as possible. He can score every single point possible this weekend, but mathematically he cannot win, unfortunately for him. But now coming in to the sprint race, he's done well a couple of times this season. I believe, he has 4 sprint race wins, so I wouldn't be surprised if he can make his way up the field and get a win as well. But let's see. Of course, there won't be any pit stops, at least nothing planned, as the drivers should be able to make it home on a set of fresh soft tyres from the beginning to the end, as you are allowed to do in the sprint race. So no pit stop needed, and I'm sure that most of the drivers, or if not all of them, are planning on driving that strategy.
Indeed, and only Mo maybe might have trouble with that one, given the few laps he did on his second and final set of soft tyres in that last race, but he'll probably manage to make it to the end, but maybe look out for him suffering a bit more from tyre wear come the end of this race, and maybe with a little bit less fresh tyres at the beginning as well, so he might not be quite on the sort of pace we would expect from him, because he was one of the fastest drivers in that last race. He was probably the 3rd fastest driver in the field, maybe 4th behind Dominic, but he just had a fair few incidents in a row, and then the unfortunate pit stop as well, so everything went against him in the end, although he can't really blame anyone else for it.
No, that is really the case for him. It was most all of his own doing, and didn't have the best race, but will be starting in 9th place. It'll be interesting to see what he can do going up through the field on a slightly worn set of tyres. It shouldn't be the biggest problem in the beginning. He should be equal, but those tyres, they might drop off quite a bit into the race if he isn't careful on that set of tyres. Of course, at the front, another driver that could do well is Darius. He has done well before, and he has shown that he does have some pace in that RGP car, but let's see. There will be drivers behind who will also be wanting to get past and fight for that win, so really nothing is set in stone for the final race and the final sprint race of the season here. Every single driver wants to just try and taste the champagne from the top step of the podium, and this will certainly be their last chance this season.
Indeed. And Hopefully we'll see many of the drivers returning for the next season. Hopefully we'll see a few more drivers in the field in general next season as well. I gotta say, these F2 races are a lot of fun. The different format for the weekend is very, very interesting. They're a whole different beast to the F1 cars as well. And the battling tends to be pretty frenetic throughout the field, so it's just a good fun time in general. So I recommend, if anyone watching wants to get involved, feel free to do so. Go over to the AOR forums and follow the sign-ups whenever the next season gets announced. Of course, has not been announced yet, so you might have to wait a little while for that one. But remember, I said this in a couple months' time whenever it does get announced. But until then, we'll just have to make do with this final race of the season here in Season 4. As we'll wait for StarCraft, who I think had a couple of adventures there on the formation lap, to arrive on the back of the grid before we can get underway. Carlo, starting from 5th, actually had the opportunity to warm up their tyres this time around, so the Carlin should be able to get off the line better than it did in the feature race, where Carlo definitely paid the price for having been disqualified at the very beginning of the formation lap. But here we go then, all the drivers on the grid finally, with the lights coming on for the final time of the season. They go out early, but not for the drivers, and now we are underway here in Abu Dhabi, and it's Steph Farrell already challenging Darius. There was already some carbon fiber going flying in the background, as well as Neil Bywater into the back of Darius, and that just pushes him further ahead through the corner. Carlo and Neil Bywater get together, and they both spin out on the exit there. So as Darius leading from Steph Farrell from the other Darius, Sebster in 4th. Who's that falling down the order? Is it Tudor? He's spun out. Tudor must have been involved in an incident there. He spun out. Dominic's round as well, a safety car here. So Carlo, Neil Bywater, Tudor and Dominic all falling by the wayside on the opening lap, along with StarCraft at the very back there. And a lot of chaos off that start, but it's Darius leading from Steph Farrell. Those two got off the line okay. Neil Bywater speeding under the safety car. He's going to have to take a drive-through penalty for that, and that is not what he would have wanted after a poor start to this race. It just gets worse.
Yeah, very chaotic beginning there, starting with possibly some contact on the grid just in the beginning, and then through turn number 1 and 2 there was a couple of drivers just getting spun round, and then through turn number 3 Tudor went round on his own, so drivers left, right and centre going off, not really able to keep it on the track and keep it in a straight line. Everyone just wanting to get the best possible start to their final sprint race, trying to get the best result possible, but that might have hampered a couple of drivers being a bit too aggressive, and the safety car has been deployed. Maybe some of the drivers will be thinking of an alternate strategy, but I would say it's way too early in the race to even think of going on a set of super softs. You can't possibly run 11 laps on them. That wouldn't be the best of ideas. So looks like everyone will be lining up behind the safety car on the same set of tyres in the order that they are right now.
Yeah, and we should see the safety car coming in at the end of lap 3, and I think even then it would still be too early for these drivers. Even if it did stay out another lap, it would still be too early, really. So I don't think they can look to go onto those super softs. Is that Lasher who's had a problem there? There's Neil Bywater into the pits back there. Carlo into the pits as well. Those were the two who got involved with one another through the exit of the first corner of the first lap, and both ended up in the wall as a result. A bit of a squabble between those two. So excluding those, we got Tudor and Dominic at the back of the field now in the two Premers, two of the fastest drivers in the last race. Tudor definitely being the fastest. So the first lap didn't go his way with that spin. He was saved a little bit by the safety car in the end, but nevertheless, it's going to be a bit of a recovery drive here after he failed to make up any positions on that opening lap, at least, having started in 8th, of course. It'll be interesting to see how well Tudor can do getting through the traffic.
Yeah, of course, he was at the back there. He was already doing well, picked up a couple of positions, and then just spun out completely and lost those again. But now up back to 8th place after a couple of drivers into the pits and whatnot at the back. So kind of restarting his Grand Prix, a restart for a couple of drivers there, the two at the front as well. But a driver that capitalised well off of the whole start chaos was Lasher, jumping up 5 positions, and Mo as well, 4 positions, Bylight and Sebster 3 positions. So all those doing very well off the start and really capitalizing, being in the right place at the right time at the beginning there, avoiding contact and then being able to pick up a couple of positions.
Yeah, I think it's actually something that Lasher tends to be quite good at in general. It's sort of off-the-line opening lap sort of stuff, tends to gain quite a lot of places. Oftentimes spins and then loses them over the rest of the race, but nevertheless, the opening laps tend to be a bit of a sight to behold for the Dams driver. Sitting in 6th at the moment, as you mentioned, decent chance for some good points here in the final race of the season. And we have a good chance right now of a first-time winner in this season, in this sprint race, making our total of winners for the season up to, I believe it would be 8, unless I'm very much mistaken, if another driver wins here today. If Sebster, it seems like one of the most likely candidates, but as long as Tudor and Dominic don't win, I think we are going to have a new winner no matter what, as long as those two don't win. So, it is currently the list of race winners. Flash, of course, our champion. Tudor, as we saw, winning last time out and in a few other sprint races throughout this season. Richie V managed a couple of wins in the early stage of the season, but attendance dropped off towards the end. Dominic has managed wins this season. Haspen managed to pick up a win, although not present here today. Shentar got that win in the sprint race in Monza just before Christmas. And Pino Macri, of course, getting some wins at the very, very beginning when we feared that he might dominate the championship that he was destined to never really truly be a part of in the end. And so, yeah, as long as anyone other than the Premers wins this, we will get another first-time winner.
Yeah, just looking to the back at Carlo and Neil Bywater both having to come into the pits again. I'm suspecting that's because when they changed their front wing, they of course also changed tyres onto the used set from the feature race, then having to come in once again to put on a set of, or the set that they started the sprint race on, so they can get to the end without too much trouble. So unfortunate for them having to pit twice just to get to the end in this Grand Prix, but it looks like they will be able to catch up to the safety car, or at least get close. But if they can't catch up, they'll be quite far behind, and I'm suspecting the safety car to come in on this lap, getting us under green flag conditions once again. So Carlo and Neil Bywater, they will have to push at the back to catch the safety car, and I'm fearing both of them will be restarting the race quite far behind.
Yeah, their tyres are also going to be rather more used. They spent one lap not on those tyres, but they've had to be pushing on this lap, whereas everyone else is just in a bit of a train behind the safety car. They will have warmer tyres on the restart. That would be a pretty big deal, as it does tend to be quite difficult to get temperature into these Formula 2 tyres, as the safety car still hasn't declared that it's coming in yet, so it might be staying out for another lap anyway, which might invalidate everything that we were saying, and indeed it does stay out again. Wonder if anyone will now take the risk and go on to super softs. I doubt it, but you never know, as none of the drivers do. They're all going to stay out on the red walled tyres, so I think that's probably the sensible call. But maybe just the tiniest window of possibility to go onto those super softs. Maybe I'd have rolled the dice if I was BioLite down in 7th, but as things stand, I am not, and he has decided to not go in that direction.
Another driver who could have rolled that dice could be Mo, as he had gone a couple of laps on the set of soft tyres he's on. He could have maybe thought about changing on to super soft tyres, trying to bring those to the end, but ultimately all of the drivers staying out, as Carlo has caught the train, and then Bywater will do so as well momentarily. So I would imagine the safety car to come in at the end of this lap, getting us back under green flag conditions, as everyone is now in the train. No one needing to pit, no one needing to do anything really. Everyone just keeping their tyres and the brakes at optimal temperature, and the track is cleared as well of anything that should be on there still. So I wouldn't see why the safety car would be staying out any longer than absolutely needed. I'd also get the challenge and the fight for first place underway. Steph Farrell here, so the safety car there finally declares to come in at the end of the lap, but Steph Farrell and Darius, two drivers that have been close here at the front, both of them wanting or Steph Rowe constantly wanting to challenge Darius here behind the safety car, and I'm sure he'll be trying his best into the first couple of corners down the straight as well, once we get the green flag.
Indeed, yeah. As we're still in the final sector, the declaration of the safety car coming in was very early, so we just got a little bit longer to wait for Darius now, just about starting to control the pace himself in that ART with Steph Farrell behind. It's critical that he gets the jump on the Charouz, because otherwise Steph will be all over him. This is going to be very, very tough for Darius to have to judge this. Not a situation he's used to, I'm sure, in the F2 machinery at least. But here we go then, up towards the final corner. Darius holding it for late. Surely on the apex he's going to gun it, and that is exactly what he's done, and he's done it beautifully. Steph actually falling quite a way behind, and the other Darius having a bad restart as well. Here comes Sebstrap, is inside already into turn one. Sebstrap will want to make the move pretty quickly, as he'll think there's a win on the cards, but he can't make the move. And now Mobile looking to take advantage behind, but cannot do so. Tudor has been able to pass BioLite, same with Dominic, so both Premers getting past BioLite. Carlo has also managed to get past the MP Motorsport car, who has spun out there through turn 3. Almost a moment there for Lasher, thinking about going up the inside of Mo, but managed to back out of it. Neil Bywater's come into the pits as well, so not sure what that's all about from the Dams driver. Very strange timing on that, just as the safety car was coming in. Oh, of course, the drive-through penalty that he had to serve, that is, I completely forgot about that. The safety car was out for so long, I completely forgot. But never mind that for now. Here comes Sebster on Darius, but he's not going to be close enough. Wanted to make the move desperately, as you can see. Lasher with a big dive.
Lasher!
No! He's gone into all kinds of drivers there. It's not Tudor the torpedo, it's Lasher the torpedo. That is a disaster for Steph Farrell, who is sitting in second place. No fault of his own, gets knocked down to the back.
Yeah, Lasher just coming behind there. I think first trying to make the move and then outbraking himself completely, just throwing it into the corner. I think he was trying his best to aim for one of the gaps in that train, but ultimately failed and just ran into Steph there. So complete catastrophe on that lap. So he's gotten a 5-second penalty for corner cutting, presumably to try and make his way straight instead of into any cars. And Darius as well getting a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. So a complete disaster there. Actually, Lasher getting 2 time penalties. I can imagine one being for a collision, the other being for the corner cutting. So 10 seconds to Lasher and 5 seconds to Darius.
Indeed, and Darius also has front wing damage. He's missing one of his end plates there, as Tudor was able to get past Mo into the final corner. And Mo not being able to get close to Tudor again. And Sebst is actually getting past Darius there. You can see the effect of that missing end plate. Darius will be easy meat for Tudor into the braking zone as well, surely. Trying to hold it around the outside. Good effort from Darius in the Trident there, but he couldn't quite do it. And Tudor makes it up into third. Sebster will be gutted to see Tudor in his rear wing at this stage of the race. He didn't make progress up through the field as quickly enough, did the HWA driver. And now he will have to desperately try and keep the Romanian, who won the feature race, behind him, and it's going to be oh so difficult to do. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. Carlo and Mo might be battling into turn 8, but Carlo much later on the brakes and is able to hold on to 5th position for now. Dominic's not been making any progress down in 7th, anything like what his teammate has been doing, at least, as they were together on the restart. But now Tudor's in 3rd, Dominic in 7th. He'll be thinking about a move on Mo this time around. Can he do it in the braking zone of turn 11? He's later on the brakes, but not by enough. Mo will hold it around the outside, and I don't think Dominic can do anything as Mo parks it on the apex.
Yeah, just at the front there, you can see Tudor, he's right behind Sebst. Now Sebst did the same with Darius, so this might be a 3-way fight for the lead. Tudor looking to maybe get past Sebster into turn 1, but the same could happen with Sebster on Darius. It is oh so close there. Darius makes a small mistake there, letting Sebster past, and then round the outside. Will Darius go, or Tudor go on Darius there into the final corner there? Bang tires a bit on the outside. Is Tudor there, almost getting thrown into the wall there, and having to now just stick behind for a bit on Darius. And in 3rd place he stays into the first corner there. Darius went through nicely, parking it completely on the apex. But will Tudor be able to get past now? Yes, on that switchback of corners. He does get it there. Oh, it's so close. Almost contact being made there. Tudor now up into second place as Sebster picked up a 3-second time penalty as the drivers behind were battling. And now on to the back straight. Will Darius be challenging Tudor behind? I can only imagine that, as he'll be opening the DRS now into the first of the 2 chicanes. Let's see, around the outside, Darius will go. Tudor went defensive, but I'm not sure that he'll be able to defend that, although he does. Side by side they go on the exit. Tudor holds the position. Now Darius, he will have the DRS once again as he came past that detection point last. So now into the second of the 2 chicane complexes. Tudor's on the inside there, defending nicely, and there Darius is attacking the other Darius just for a moment, and the newer Darius having to stick behind the older of the 2 Dariuses, and Tudor stays in second place.
Yeah, Darius JRX was trying to actually get a switch back on Tudor, trying to duck back underneath him, but he couldn't do so because when he needed to turn left, the other Darius was there in his way in the Trident. So that was unfortunate for Darius JRX and the ART, who once again makes a meal of turn 19 there. Darius, the other, getting closer to him. Meanwhile, out at the front, Sebster picked up a 3-second time penalty at the beginning of last lap, so Tudor, as long as he keeps his nose clean, will almost certainly win this race from this point. It's 1.6 seconds between himself and Sebster, and he's almost certainly got the pace to catch up with the German in the HWA. However, through turn 1, he lost a 10th there, but he's gaining it back now, so I think Sebster needed Darius to keep battling with Tudor for about a lap more to have any chance of winning this race, but I might well eat my words come the end of this race if Tudor doesn't start picking up the pace, and I'd love to see a battle. If Sebster can look to build that gap up to 3 seconds, it could be very, very close come the end.
Certainly could be now, as there is a bit of a battle for P3. The newer Darius on the older one, and then Mo right behind. Could be a fun battle with those 2 Dariuses. Darius without the JRX right behind there into the first chicane. He had the DRS but wasn't able to get past, but now from 4th place, will he be able to challenge for 3rd place round the outside? Looks like it. Has the DRS, he's on the outside and gets the position. Nicely done there. Mo behind, went a bit off the track, got a penalty for it, and then they touch. He gets spun out onto the inside, onto the whatever concrete, yeah, you can call that, on the inside, just off the track there after trying to squeeze it on the inside, but was unable to do so, loses out. But Darius went up into 3rd place. Darius JRX have to make do with 4th now, but he has Darius or Dominic now fighting behind, trying to find a way through to 4th place now. So in that fight, he first lost the 3rd place, almost lost 4th place, and now he has Dominic wanting to get past as he makes a small meal off the final corner.
Tudor has closed down the gap to Sebster by about 0.7 of a second over the previous lap, ever since the end of turn 1 at least. Is that Mo who's lost it out of the final corner? Yes, it is. So once again, it's going all right for Mo for a while, and then there's an incident that
sorry
isn't
to interrupt, but here comes Dominic on Darius, just on the exit of turn number 3 and 4 there. Not a normal place to see overtakes happen, but Darius had a bad exit and a bad turn of turn number 3 there, and then Dominic was just able to nip it on a bit of a switchback line, nip it down the inside, and that turned to the outside, and he had the position nicely done there. Up into 4th place he went.
Here comes Darius going back at Dominic though, as Biolite retires through turn 4. Yellows in sector 1 and 2. Carlo gets back into the game, rejoins in his car, and Dominic and Darius are battling all the way through turn 9 there. Very hard to go side by side, but Dominic just about managed it. He did get a poor run though onto the straight down towards turn 11, and as a result, Darius with the DRS has been able to get past and back up into 4th he goes. So Dominic is not going to have it all his own way in his battle to try and make the podium. The same 3 drivers that it was in the feature race. He's got a bit of a job on his hands, I should say, with the 2 Dariuses up ahead.
He must say, and as Carlos having some connection issues, and Lasher now retires on the exit of the final turn. Could that have been a small crash? You see now Dominic trying to fight for fourth place there. Darius JRX defending well and keeps the position nicely. Not quite sure what happened to Lasher. That could have that might have been a crash on the exit of the final turn. But out of the race he goes. No safety car, just yellow flag. So we lost 3 drivers in this Grand Prix. Unfortunately, 3 drivers unable to finish the final race of the season. But now Dominic, a driver that wants to finish off the season well, tried for 4th place there, but held back just for a second, nipping the DRS there as they passed the detection point. So for 4th place now, will he challenge into turn number 8? Let's see. He'll open the DRS, he'll be in the slipstream of Darius, and he will take to the inside of the track there. Darius trying to go defensive, trying to squeeze Dominic there, but unable to do so. Dominic there getting an okay line into turn number 8 and 9. Darius trying a switchback, but was unable to do so, had to stick behind for now. But he will have the DRS on Dominic now coming into turn 11. Dominic there going defensive, trying to squeeze Darius to the inside, doing it nicely so, as he went to the outside instead. But then he battled into turn 11 there and got the position through turn 13.
Bit of contact as well as the battle will now continue. Dominic trying to go around the outside of the triple left-hander here in the Prema. And it looks like he has been able to just about do so. Maybe a slight tap from the rear end there from the ART. But in the rest of this final sector, there's only so much battling you can do. And Dominic has looked to get one hand on 4th position for now. But look at the other Darius up ahead. He's absolutely checked out. And speaking of checking out, Sebster is building that gap to Tudor. Tudor made a mistake on the last lap into, I think, turn 11 or 12. Lost about 4-5 tenths of a second to Sebster, but he was falling a little bit away from him anyway right now. Sebster with the fastest lap last time around. If he can build just half a second more, if Tudor makes one more mistake of the same sort of magnitude as that last one, then we will see Sebster taking the win in this final lap of this race here. The gap is up to 2.6 seconds. That is going to be critical to watch. That is 2.7 now, but only for a split second. It's all over the place. It's going to be so close unless Tudor can really get his head down and regain the form he had in the feature race here. And I'm sure that is exactly what he'll be hoping for. Mo has retired from this race on the pit straight. I think he's gone into the pits to retire. And Darius JRX, is he going to be able to battle with Dominic? No, Dominic comfortably ahead now, but the other Darius is also comfortably ahead. Has a 3-second time penalty of his own, though, I believe. Oh no, it's 8 seconds of penalties, so he's going to have to worry about that one, maybe with the stewards after as well. I think that was partly with the incident when Lasher went flying in beforehand. And I don't know about you, but I've lost my intervals, which is absolutely tantalizing right now between Sebster and Tudor.
Yeah, whenever a person joins the lobby in the middle of a race or a session, the interval will disappear until they cross the line. And since this is the final lap, we don't quite know how the gaps are forming out. So it's just trying to look at the minimap, trying to see where that gap is, if we think it's close enough or not. Let's see, they'll be crossing the line in just a second, where the checkered flag will fall.
Sebster was faster. He was faster in Sector 2 by a couple of tenths of a second. That might be all he needs. Here comes Tudor up the line. No, he takes it. Takes it away from Sebster. Tudor finishing first and taking the double win on the last race weekend of the season. Sebster so close to getting his first win of the season. He's had plenty of podiums, plenty of second places, but he couldn't get the gold when it mattered most. That penalty that he picked up, he would have been able to hold Tudor behind if it wasn't for that, comfortably in at that. Dominic was able to claim third in the end to make it the same 3 drivers on the podium. Steph Burrell comes through in 4th after getting smashed out of 2nd place early on, so he'll be happy with that recovery, but he'll be thinking, what if Lasher hadn't come and absolutely blasted into the side of him?
Right, so I'm just trying to do some very quick math in my head, and I believe Tudor didn't take the fastest lap, but I think he still would have if you'd won everything last time out and gotten everything well and kept the championship fight open for this Grand Prix, I think they would have been equal on points. I think we would have had a champion, and then of course then it would have of course been count back on wins, I believe, and then Flash would have taken it quite comfortably, just counting his wins. But the championship, as you know, Tudor did take the... No? Oh, that's strange.
Fastest lap in the first race, and then not in the second.
Yeah, of course, that was just the... Yeah, yeah, with 46 points, it would have been equal, the points. They would have been... if you'd won everything last time out, it would have been a completely equal championship we would have seen here, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Tudor catching up well in the championship and finishing it all off quite nicely, almost taking a Grand Slam in the final round of the season. And oh my, what a season we have seen. All 24 races, feature and sprint races included, has been absolutely amazing to commentate on. These drivers are always able to provide some entertainment.
For sure, yeah. And that was a very, very entertaining way to finish off that last race of the season in what were a couple of maybe not the finest examples of F2 races there in Abu Dhabi. We've seen some better ones throughout the season, but nevertheless, it was all right. And that the end of that last race there was really very interesting, especially with the drama of the intervals going away. I like that. I went desperately into the race director and looked at their sector times for Sector 2, and Tudor was slower by 0.2, and I thought maybe Sebster had done it, but he hadn't in the end. And it was close to 0.4 of a second in it. He was not quite as close as he would have liked. But well done to Tudor, though, in the end. Did exactly what he needed to do. Would have been expecting to win at least one, maybe both of the races here today. And he delivered on that promise. A great job from him.
Yeah, certainly. And you have to remember, even when an F2 isn't the finest, it's still a great one. These drivers have just provided top-tier entertainment this whole season. But if you're sitting out there and you're wondering how to participate in one of these seasons, I do believe that there are some planning in progress for another season of the F2 cars before we jump to the next game. So look out for any information on the AOR forum. There should be a link in the description. Otherwise, you can just head on to apexonlineracing.com, I believe the link is. Otherwise, search for it on Google, and you should be able to get on to the forums and see if there are any announcements for a new season and how the sign-up process will go ahead. So, for one last time this season, it is a goodbye from us here. It's a great season. We've had some great races, but... everything must come to an end, and that is also what we have to say for Season 4 of the AOR Hyper Energy Formula 2 Sprint League. And we hope to see you next season, hope to see you next time. In the meantime, we still have some F1 leagues and other leagues going on the channel, but until next time, it will be a goodbye.